And lastly, like, how often is it once you've seen someone graduate from your cohort and you're talking to them and you ask them, did you imagine you'll specialize in the way that you did? How often is it that students say that they weren't like they had no intention, like that they ended up doing something they weren't really expecting to do so?
I would have said a lot of students coming through end up doing something similar to what they had originally thought they might be doing, but frequently a little bit different.
Yeah.
And then you have a minority of students who end up, ending up doing something completely different to what they thought they might be doing when they arrived.
Hello everyone, welcome to Cambridge from the Inside. We're here with a new guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Anton Enright, and I'm one of the directors of studies here at Trinity Hall for Biological Natural Sciences.
Nice. So today we're going to be talking about the Natural Sciences course, and more specifically for students who are more interested in the biological side, which we'll get into that when you're applying for natural sciences as biological natural sciences or physical natural sciences. So, Anton, for someone who wants to study, let's say, biology at university and they're thinking about applying to Cambridge, how does someone go about studying biology at Cambridge?
So I think one of the key things here that I really like about the natural science course at Cambridge is the flexibility that's built into it. I don't know about you, but when I was 16, 17, I didn't really know that I wanted to be a geneticist or working in pathology or doing computational biology. I really enjoyed biology. I was quite interested in certain aspects of that, but I like chemistry. I like parts of physics as well. And so for me, a natural science degree felt like a really, really natural choice. And the natural science degree at Cambridge retains that flexibility. So you do have the chance to effectively build your own biology degree by choosing whichever subjects suit you. And in particular, I think the subjects that you find interesting are always going to be the ones where you're going to do better at university.
Nice. Yeah, I think since I've been working here, I've realised whether it's on the sciences side or the humanities side, Cambridge really offers a lot of flexibility for students to be able to choose which modules they want to do in the natural sciences. In the sciences case, the natural sciences course enables students to not focus on, let's say, just specifically biology, chemistry, physics. And in the humanities side, I don't think people realise that students can borrow a lot of papers from different departments. So even if you're studying English, you could borrow papers from the languages department or the linguistics department, and I think that's a really cool thing about Cambridge. So just specifically about natural sciences, am I right in, can you explain a bit about the structure of the course? And I just wanted to make it clear for the viewers, if I want to study biology or biochemistry, or physics, chemistry, material sciences, all of these people would be applying for this one course, natural sciences.
Yes, so for natural sciences, for most colleges, it's split into two tracks. So there's physical natural sciences and biological natural sciences. Effectively, it's the same course, but depending on which route you come in, there might be some different prerequisites on what type of subjects you might have been expected to have taken. Every student at a college in Cambridge will have a director of studies or a DOS, and it's usually a process where you sit down with somebody and you plan out what subjects you'd like to take in your first year. Typically, if you come through the biological natural sciences route, most of those subjects we'd expect to be biological subjects. But the course still retains the flexibility that you can, if you really like the idea of material science and you want to pick that up as one of your 4 subjects in first year, you can do that. It's possible to go deeper into chemistry, to do some physics. So retaining that flexibility is, I think, really useful. And it also works. We get students each year who come in maybe on the physical natural sciences track who quite like to take the big first year biology course, biology of cells. And some of those students really enjoy that course and maybe go and look at doing more biology later on. So that's, yeah, I think it's quite flexible, but there's two different routes of admission, but there is flexibility in the system.
So am I right in thinking that whichever route you come in through, once you're in, you can really, it's up to you to choose which modules. You don't have to stick to the biological ones if you've applied through biological natural sciences?
Yes, so I think the nice thing, there's great flexibility, but the problem with flexibility is there's some kind of responsibility that comes with that. So we work quite closely with our students to make sure they're picking subjects that are compatible with their backgrounds, that will be compatible with each other. So there are some combinations of subjects that, while they might be interesting, it could be quite difficult, because there's not a lot of overlap between those subjects. But that's something we work really closely with our students with here to make sure they're looking at subjects that they find interesting and also will be practical going forward for them.
I think that's really cool and really interesting how much support students get from their DOS, the Director of Studies, with making which choices they make and which module choices. Because I studied chemistry at Oxford. I can't speak on what the course is right now, but I only graduated a couple of years ago, and that culture of a lot of support from your DOS in which module choice, at least in what module choice you'd be taking, wasn't really a thing, because at least for chemistry, most of the modules, almost all of them were mandatory. So everyone knew what they were doing for the first 3 years. I just wanted to specify for the viewers, am I right in thinking that students who apply for biological natural sciences and students who apply for physical natural sciences, but those two strands will have different types of interviews?
Yeah, so I think that will be, I think, the main difference at admissions. Clearly, I think if you're taking physical natural sciences, you could expect much more mathematical, physical, and some chemical questions coming up. And in the biological natural sciences, there'll still be some quantitative aspects, but there's probably more of a focus on biological questions and chemical questions.
Nice. And the admission, does everyone take the same admissions test?
Yes, so there's a natural science admissions test. I've forgotten what the acronym for those is at the moment. And yeah, depending on what A-level or IB subjects you've specialised in, you can pick a range of those subjects.
Nice. So with regards to the natural sciences course, can you briefly explain how many modules you take per year? At one point do you specialise?
Yeah.
And does everyone do a fourth year, etc.?
Sure. So in first year, all natural science students will take 3 experimental subjects and mathematics or mathematical biology. So I think, given that almost everything you'll encounter in natural sciences, is generating quantitative data, it's really important. Mathematics is like a common language across the sciences. So we want all students to have a really firm grasp of maths. So you'll take one of your maths options, and then you have a choice of three subjects. And again, they could be all biological subjects, where you could take perhaps 2 biological subjects and something more on the physical side. So biology of cells is very popular. It's the big, broad biology course in first year. Chemistry is very, very popular. And then there's options like things like material science as well, if you want to cover a little bit of the physical side of things as well.
Nice. And so how often, are there combinations that are more common, that are really popular, or depending on who you does every student have a completely different combination, if you see what I mean?
There's some combinations that will be a little bit more common than others. I would say most students probably are going to take biology of cells.
Okay.
Chemistry is very popular.
Yeah.
And again, that's a useful foundation to build on your previous chemistry. And then for beyond those two, and assuming we've already taken maths or mathematical biology,
Yeah.
I think subjects like physiology is quite popular with biologists. So is evolution. It's quite a popular course. And yeah, there's a range of different options there. But I would say biology of cells and chemistry are probably the two most common.
Yeah. With subject like, because Earth Science is the first year course, is that something that leans over more towards biology or more towards the physics?
Yeah, that would officially be on the physical side of the natural sciences, but it is a possible subject that a first year biologist could take. Yeah.
Nice. And with regards to the natural sciences course, how is the course taught? Would I be expecting like labs or lectures or classes as well as supervisions, etc.?
So for your 4 subjects in first year, you are going to be having 3 lectures a week. So this would be 12 lectures. And we'd also expect practicals for the 3 experimental subjects. They tend to happen every other week, depending on how long the practicals are. So I would say in a given week, you've got 12 lectures and probably 1 to 2 practicals per week. And then for each of your 4 subjects, you'd be doing a supervision session as well.
Nice. And for anyone who doesn't know, can you explain what are supervisions and what makes them different to a typical class that they're used to at school?
Yes, so supervisions are small group teaching sessions that your director of studies at your college will organise. So it can be quite nice if you've gone to your 3 lectures for, say, biology of cells that week. You might have covered quite a lot of content in 3 lectures. When you go and sit down at that supervision, it could be yourself and another student, or yourself and 1 or 2 other students in a small group with a supervisor who's been chosen by the college for their knowledge of the subject. And it's a chance to go through the content of the lectures, to try and work together to highlight what was important, to look at aspects of the taught content that maybe were a bit unclear, needed a bit of clarification. Most courses will provide some problem sheets for you to work through in advance of the supervision. So these could be small quantitative problems. These could be short answer questions just to test the knowledge you picked up from the lecture. Or they could be kind of more specific problem sheets. So usually it's a bit of a combination of going through the taught content, reinforcing some of that with some problems, and then working together to have a look at your answers and see if there was anywhere you needed to go back and just check your notes again.
Nice. I think just wanted to ask for students who are deciding between different universities and they're considering Cambridge, I guess Oxford as well, who have the tutorial system. What do you think a student would be missing if there wasn't the supervision system and it was the classes, the practicals, and the lectures?
I think, I went to a university where I could read natural sciences, but we didn't have supervisions. So you're very much on your own with the content. And I think you can go to a lecture, you can follow the content, and you think, yeah, I can understand the main concepts. I think I have a good grasp of this. Sometimes it's not until you sit down in a small group and work through some problems together that you realize, well, maybe I didn't quite pick up that aspect, or I misunderstood that part of the lecture a little bit. So I think it's really useful to work together in groups like that. It's nice working with other people who might have taken different subjects to you, that might have different strengths and weaknesses. The other thing I think that's really quite important as we go through university in the UK is to develop critical thinking. And that's something we really want to see from our graduates, particularly by the time you get to 3rd year in natural sciences at Cambridge. There's less lectures, there's a lot more independent reading, independent working, people doing research projects. So we really want to equip students with the skills to be able to go and think for themselves. And in supervisions in 1st and 2nd year, that's something I think supervisors work quite hard on. So in many instances, they might go a little bit beyond the lecture. They might ask you to think about, concepts that might not quite match up with what's been in the lecture, and just get you to think about what alternative hypotheses, how else could this work, how might this apply in some other field. So I think those conversations are quite useful to have as you go through the natural sciences degree.
Nice. I think at least at A level and GCSE level, students think of science as there being objective answers, right? Like things that are facts and things that are right and wrong. In supervisions, do you find that students tend to have different approaches of arriving at the similar answers to explain a problem?
Yeah, I think students can have very different ways of thinking about things. I mean, we all think quite differently, and I think it's being exposed to that range of different views that can really help us explore our critical thinking. I think when you look at A-level subjects, schools are excellent at teaching us through those courses, but I think what you'll find when you come to university is we really want to push beyond that. And I think something you said is very important, which is that something that happens again in biology. Everything. If you read everything as just fact, and this is a one way. This always happens this way. The thing I love about biology is every time you think you've cracked something, you'll find 12 exceptions. You'll find some organism that lives deep in the soil that does it completely differently.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really like about biology is we're constantly learning and improving our knowledge of how biology works. And biology is very adaptable and happens in lots of different ways. So I think that's something we really try and explore with students here.
Nice. I guess that's at what point, if there's so many exceptions, does the rule, is it even a rule anymore? And
I think you do eventually get to a point where the amount of knowledge in a field gets to the point where you think, yes, okay, we're now, have pretty good understanding of how this works in these different systems. But again, having the adaptability to realize that there could still be other ways of things happening. The entire field of biology I work on didn't exist when I was an undergrad, which I still find quite humbling. So yeah, I think that adaptability is definitely important.
Nice. And just to go back on the supervisions, at least for the more biological modules, I assume students will be handing in work beforehand. Are they answering problem sheets or are they writing essays?
Depends on the course. I mean, for the things like mathematical biology, mathematics be more like problem sheets and working through different problems and then looking at how everybody's answered those. And for things like biology of cells, there could be some short answer questions. There could be some small quantitative problems, and there could be some quite small, not quite essays yet, but more tracks of written text to just demonstrate your understanding of a concept. As you move through the natural science course, you may find some subjects become a little bit more essay heavy later on in second year and possibly in third year. So it's something we work on with students here to just prepare them for the type of subject they're taking and how that's assessed.
Nice. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the second year of the natural sciences course, because there's a huge variety of modules for students to take. I'll just list a few of the biological modules. This isn't all of them, and they can change year on year, I imagine. There's biochemistry, biology of disease, cell biology, ecology, evolutionary module, evolutionary behaviour module, neurobiology, plant sciences, etc., and there's the chemistry modules. In second year you can only choose 3 of the modules of an even longer list. How do students know which to choose from?
Yeah, I'd say it's a particular issue as a director of studies. I think, as I said before, with flexibility and choice comes great responsibility. So that's something, as a director of studies, I will usually meet with natural science students at the beginning of term, at the end of term, and also in the middle of term if they want to talk about anything particular. And that's something we start talking about usually towards the end of first year. And it's something students love having the choice, but sometimes feel like, well, I really enjoy this topic. I really like this topic. So we would usually sit down and discuss that holistically. And I guess for me, what I've found most useful in helping my students has been sitting down and working out what did you really enjoy in first year? You've had a lot of content across a lot of different aspects of biological natural sciences and possibly physical natural sciences. What did you enjoy from that? Where did you really feel like you were doing well? What are your thoughts about where you'd like to go, later on in the course? And that'll help us make some decisions about what would be a good set of subjects to take in second year. Some subject combinations are naturally complementary to each other, which can be quite nice. So things like biochemistry is quite complementary with cell and developmental biology, and also potentially with biology of disease. So depending on a student's interests, what they've really enjoyed in first year, where they'd like to go, we can begin to put together a set of possible options.
Nice. So am I right in thinking the first year biology of cells course is probably quite broad, and then depending on what a student likes within that course, they can choose more specific modules in the second year?
Yeah, I'd say that's quite an accurate way of describing it. Biology of cells course is enormous. It's a great course. But it's very, very broad. And I think that's quite nice because it provides for physical natural scientists, that might be the only biology course they take at Cambridge. And it means they're going to get a good fundamental background in biology. And again, for our biological natural scientists, it can help them decide in second year which aspects of the course they really enjoyed.
Nice. And it's a question that we have later on, but I guess we can talk about it now. As you were mentioning about people taking more physical modules, but will take the biology of cells module, is because I don't really know much about the area of biophysics. Is there much overlap between the stuff that physical natural scientists will be studying with BioNatSci?
Yes, so there can be, and every now and again, we will have a student coming through who wants to look at proper biophysics, and it is possible to do. It can be a bit difficult with subject combination sometimes, because sometimes second and third year subjects might have requirements of what you should have taken in first year, but it's certainly possible. And we will have students coming through the biological natural sciences track who want to take a more biophysics route, who may move much closer towards the physical natural sciences as they come through the natural sciences course. And that's possible. Sometimes it can present some challenges because you may be taking really quite different subjects that have no overlap whatsoever. But it's something we can work on with students to make sure that they're able to cover that ground. And again, we will get students sometimes coming through the physical natural sciences track who take biology of cells and think, I really enjoyed that. Maybe I'd like to go, towards the biology side. So I would say it's not super common, but it's possible. Maybe something like 5% of students might do something that, that spans the physical and biological boundaries a bit more than other students.
Nice. Because is something like quantum behavior in biology something that's been researched in?
Yeah, there's huge amounts going on, and it still amazes me how much interaction there is. I do a lot of work with genomics. We have a lot of new technology in genome sequencing, with tiny fabricated nanostructures that can sequence nucleotides passing through pores. And, there's an interplay between the physical sciences, material sciences, chemistry, and developing new technologies in biology. So, yeah, it never fails to amaze me how much interaction there actually is. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I guess that reinforces how cool it is that of how natural sciences, you're not bound by one strand. You can.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, it's not for everybody. It can be difficult. I mean, I enjoyed the physical natural sciences I studied. I don't think my maths was quite good enough to go much deeper on that. So I'm glad I took the route that I've taken. But for some students who have the background and capacity, the options are there, and we can help them navigate that.
Nice. But am I right in thinking in like a research group, you will have different members where there might be someone doing the more biological stuff, and then one that once they need someone who's a bit more mathematical to analyze the data, they'll pass that information on to the more mathsy person. That makes sense?
It's an interesting question. I would say these days in a modern biology research lab, I think everybody is a data scientist. We all need mathematical skills. I mean, when I was an undergraduate, when you went and did your research placement, people would have results on bits of paper or an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
In biology, modern high throughput biology now, we have sequencing devices that can fill terabytes of space with data in hours. So I think biology has definitely become a much more high throughput and quantitative discipline than it was when I was a student. So it takes all kinds of different people to navigate that. In general, I would say at Cambridge now, we really want our biologists to be able to handle that. And that's why I'm really glad our students are taking maths or mathematical biology in first year. And we have a whole new track through the natural sciences course that can lead into computational biology, which is a course I'm quite heavily involved in, which is quite nice. So the whole point there, again, is to give our biologists skills for really dealing with high throughput biology that's happening now.
Nice. I saw that there's a second year module in the computational biology. Can you explain how that module is different to, let's say, a student writing a report for their lab and where they might have to analyze data? How is the computational biology module different to that?
So what I've seen happen in the last number of years as biology has changed is you'll get a lot of students who'll come through a natural science or biology degree, might go into a master's degree, and they kind of have to pick up those high throughput data analysis skills themselves later on. And there's good courses and postgraduate courses and various ways to pick up those skills. What we try to cover in that second year course is we really want to take people back to the theory and the mathematics and algorithmics and computer science behind that, so that when those students come a little bit later through their scientific careers, they really have deep fundamental knowledge of how these things work. And I think the students who've taken that have found it really, really quite useful as they've gone on to do research projects later on. They have great understanding of the computational tools that we need in biology, and good coding skills as well. And then on top of all of that, they have maths and stats to be able to analyze this kind of high dimensional data that they generate.
Nice. So another thing I wanted to talk about is that there'll be a lot of prospective students watching this that might be doing biology A level and chemistry A level, and students might be unsure of what is biochemistry and how it's different to chemistry, and in how it's even different to the more biological modules. And I was wondering if you'd be able to explain the difference between those three for us.
Yes, so I would say biochemistry is it's a branch of chemistry, but it's focused on the chemistry of life. So things like metabolism, pathways in cells, how energy moves around cells. And it'll also move into things like protein structure, enzymes, enzyme kinetics. So it's chemistry in the biological concept, in the biological context around how life works and what are the chemical building blocks of life and how do they come together to power life in cells. In chemistry, chemistry is much broader, and there's there's two different chemistry options, at least in second year. One is a bit more theoretical. The other one is a little bit more adaptable for biologists. It covers a lot of organic chemistry, nucleophilic attacks, the kind of reactions and stereochemistry and chirality, things that can be important in biology. And I think there's a chemical biology part of that as well. But it's much more general. But I would say biochemistry is probably a much more popular subject because it's going to feed more closely into lots of different subjects in third year in particular.
Nice. Yeah, I think students don't realise, well, at least prospective students don't realise how broad a chemistry course is.
Yeah.
Because it's just much broader than the A level.
Yeah.
I guess just very quickly explain that. Like in chemistry, there's inorganic chemistry, physical chemistry, and organic chemistry. And I assume the biochemistry options stem from the organic chemistry side.
Yeah. I think the majority of the chemistry there would be organic chemistry. Yeah.
Nice. So I think we have this question later, but I guess we could talk about it now. A lot of institutions, they have separate courses for you either apply for biochemistry or you apply for chemistry or you apply for biology. Are there advantages of students being able to do both, like chemistry and biochemistry in their second year and not have to choose what to specialize in too early on?
I think, it's kind of an individual preference. I guess there must be people out there, prospective students out there who know exactly what they want to do. I definitely wasn't like that. I thought I wanted to do genetics through natural sciences, but I wasn't entirely sure. I think if I'd had to sign up at 17, 18 to do a degree in that, I would have worried a little bit. Am I specializing too early? So it was nice for me coming through a natural sciences course to be able to take chemistry, biochemistry, some physics options, and then to specialize a little bit deeper. And by the time I got to my second year, I thought, okay, I really do like genetics. And so it just made me more confident and happy in the choice that I eventually made when I specialized. But I also feel like I had a real benefit from picking up all of those other subjects that I did in first year and second year through natural sciences. Because for me, my work now, even though I specialize in genetics, I'm a computational biologist, so the mathematics and the programming I learned from that in first year of my natural sciences degree, I still use daily. Chemistry still comes up an awful lot as well. So I found it very beneficial to have that kind of more mixed background and specialize a little bit later. And then when I did specialize, I was a bit more confident in my choice because I'd been covering it at university level, and I thought, yeah, this is a subject for me.
Nice. So am I right in thinking that it's just a lot harder to know what you'd enjoy before trying it out?
Yeah. I think it's funny when I pick up, I've got kids at home. I've got one doing A levels this year. I've got two more doing GCSEs. So I do see the A level and GCSE content quite a lot at home.
Yeah.
And I still find it remarkable sometimes that the entire field of biology I work on, I think, is one sentence in the A level textbook. Is that this, there is this type of molecule called a non-coding RNA, and it works a bit like this. And I think it's difficult teaching a subject like chemistry, biology, or physics at A level, just trying to cover so much. Things definitely change when you come to university. You realize how much deeper you can go. You develop a much more theoretical understanding of how things work. And again, it's that combination crossing over subjects that can really help you have a deeper understanding of what's going on. I think biology in particular, it's kind of almost completely retaught in first year in the biology of cells module and some of the other biology modules. So yeah, you're going back over some of the key principles, but you're going much deeper. And it seems to me most of the natural sciences, every time you go a little bit deeper, you find out more, and you see more exceptions to what you've been taught was a rule at perhaps A-level biology.
Nice. Um, Going into a bit deeper into the secondary modules, I was reading through the titles, and some of them, at least from name, just struggle to either know the difference between the two. I guess two modules specifically was. I was wondering if you could explain the difference between the biochemistry and molecular biology course and the cell and developmental biology course.
So they're two very popular second year biology choices, and I think they're both great courses. And there's a good degree of overlap, I would say, between the two. You can take both of them, and some students do opt to do that because they find, even where there's overlap, getting different views on the same concepts can be quite useful. Biochemistry, molecular bio. I mean, both courses give you a really good grounding in molecular biology. Genes, genomes, transcription, translation, how proteins are made and function. Biochemistry may spend a bit more time in metabolism, kinetics, and how enzymes work and pathways. Cell and developmental biology will go, I guess the difference is in scale. Biochemistry is a little bit more at the molecular scale. Cell and developmental biology will look at cell biology, cell division, and how molecular processes controls how cells differentiate and develop. And as part of the cell and developmental biology course, you'll do quite a bit of developmental biology, which I have to admit I really enjoyed as an undergrad, just working out how do we get from a single cell to an organism with billions of cells. How does that process work? And it's quite interesting with a process like that to see from the molecular level how these things are controlled all the way up to the level of a whole organism. So a lot of overlap, slightly different focus, but both very, very useful courses. Just again, slightly different in terms of scale.
Nice. I guess, and that difference in terms of scale can, am I right in thinking that can dictate what pathway the student was to go into if they were to go into research? As in, I can imagine someone taking the more biochemistry pathway could end up in the synthetic, organic, or biochemistry lab.
Yeah, it's possible. I think we try not to get students too locked in. There's still quite a bit of flexibility in your third year courses. There's some prerequisites. But I think particularly if somebody wants to do specialize in biochemistry, it's very useful to have done the biochemistry course in second year. But again, both are quite flexible. They both allow you to do an awful lot of different options in third year. And you do get students sometimes who take quite a left field choice in third year. They might have done cell and developmental biology and biochemistry, and then they decide to go and do zoology in their third year.
Okay.
So yeah, there's still quite a bit of flexibility in there. And if by second year you think, yeah, I'd like to go and be a cell biologist, or I'd like to be a biochemist, or I'd like to go into biopharmaceuticals, you could begin to pick courses that can help shape that. But I think it's difficult to get too backed into a corner at that stage in second year.
Because am I right in thinking in the second year you choose 3 options, but in the third year you choose 1?
Yes. So, and there's a good choice of third year courses. They all generally have quite broad names.
Okay.
But the third year courses, even though it might seem like you're specializing in pathology or biochemistry or genetics, they're very modular courses as well. Okay. So there's a lot of flexibility in exactly what you would like to do from within those specialties. So I'm in the Department of Pathology, and pathology to a lot of us conjures up somebody cutting up bodies to try and work out how somebody's died. Pathology in the context of natural sciences here is really biology of disease. It's understanding how biology, molecular biology, genetics, immunology, cell biology, how do all these things come together to cause disease? And if we improve our understanding of those processes, how can we treat disease? So pathology is quite a broad term, but within our Part 2 module, you can choose epidemiology and public health. You could choose virology. You could choose immunology. You could choose microbiology and parasitology, or you could look at genetics and genomics and how that might apply to disease. And you get to pick two of those options and bring those together and decide what type of specialism you'd like to do. The other thing I think that's quite important with the third year courses, the part 2 courses, is that almost all of them will involve doing a research project, which is a really nice chance to get hands-on experience in a research lab. And at that point, you've been choosing subjects for 2 previous years, you've chosen something for your third year. And I think one important aspect of this, if you're thinking about a career in science, is to go to the bench and actually work in a lab and see, from the coalface, is this really the type of science I'd like to do? There is another possibility in third year, which people don't often talk about, which is called BBS. I think it's Biological Biomedical Sciences. And that is a chance in third year, if you really don't want to have to pick just one thing and some submodules for it, you can pick a major subject. So you would do a smaller variant of one of the primary courses, and then you would pick up a minor option. And there's a huge list of smaller courses you can pick up there. So if you want to do kind of a major minor option in third year, and I think that's quite a nice option as well. It's quite a flexible option.
Wow, yeah, that's really cool. I can see what you mean by there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with having the
choice. Yeah.
But it is really cool. I think you explained it really well. How I think at least on the website for the third year course, it's just have pathology, and we won't realize that within that there's so many different combinations a student can make and how they specialize in their third year. I was wondering if you could also explain how does the fourth year work, and does a student get a master's if they were to do a fourth year?
Yeah, so depending on what third year choice you've gone for, it may be possible to do what we call a part 3, which is to go and do an extra year of specialism in that subject, and that would give you a master's degree. So they're not available in all of the biological subjects. I think the part 3 in biochemistry is really quite popular. I think there's a few other part 3 options as well, but there's not as many. There aren't part 3 options for every particular subject. So some students may opt to go and look at doing an MPhil instead. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's also it's cool that at least for like some subjects there's an option to change your undergrad to integrated masters.
Yeah, and I do think it's not absolutely essential to have that extra year. I think increasingly it's quite useful to have an extra year just to mature a little bit as a scientist, and also to get a bit more hands-on experience. But you will have many students coming through natural sciences who've been quite active in the summers and getting research experience outside of Cambridge, who've done a research project, who may well be able to go straight out of a natural science degree without having done a part 3 or an integrated master's, and gone off to do Ph.D. level research. That's possible. For some other students, that extra year can be very useful just to gain more hands-on skills and again, more confidence that the subject you're really interested in is the one you want to pursue.
Nice. So say like a student has taken the more biological strand and they finished their third year. They're not doing part 3 at natural sciences, but they're going into further study. What kind of master's degrees are there for students who are interested in biology, and how would are there lots of institutions that have master's courses that are for biology?
Yeah, there's a huge range of master's programs out there in the biological sciences. I think you tend to see students looking at what kind of knowledge they've consolidated and where they have good experience, and then thinking about what would be a good master's that would be complementary to what I already have. So that's quite common. I think we mentioned computational biology before. That's something we've really tried to improve through the natural sciences course. So it's possible to get really good computational biology experience now. But certainly in the past, that was something some students would look at, saying, well, I think I'm really good in the lab, I have really good knowledge, but I'd like to build my quantitative and coding and data analysis skills. And sometimes a master's can be an ideal way to do that. There's some options at Cambridge for that as well. And there's a part 3 in systems biology as well, which can help improve those skills. Other students might be looking at going into graduate medicine. It's quite common, particularly with students we have who take pathology. That might be something they'd like to go into, thinking about becoming a clinician scientist later on in their careers. And they might do something along those lines, or applying to graduate medical school. And yeah, for a lot of students, it's a chance to gain a bit more experience and add some extra skills into their toolkit.
Nice. So am I right in thinking if someone's done natural sciences and they want to do a PhD in a specific field, would they have to have done a master's beforehand, or can you go straight? Can you apply for PhD straight away?
Yeah. So again, as a director of studies, this is something I have long and deep discussions with my students about. So it's definitely not required. I think it's quite nice to have that extra year. I think so. A part 3 or an MPhil can be really, really useful. Just because it gives you that extra year of skill building. But from my point of view, as somebody who runs a research lab and recruits PhD students, I don't really mind. When I'm trying to recruit a PhD student, we want somebody who's got the knowledge. And we have really good higher education in the UK. Most students coming through have got great background knowledge. But when it comes down to PhD, it's also about skills. What have you done in the lab? What type of real research experience have you had? So I really encourage my students throughout their journey in natural sciences to try and pick up as much hands-on experience as they can, see if they can get out and get some research experience in the summer, or after the degree go and do an integrated master's or master's. That just can give you more skills in your toolkit for PhD level research. The nice thing frequently with PhDs is there isn't always a really set background you have to have. Again, a lot of it's down to skills. So for students I take on in my lab as PhD students, they can come from lots of different backgrounds. It could be zoology, it could be molecular biology. I've had students come in from computer science. I've had students come in from physics and maths sometimes. So it's possible, at PhD level to really go in slightly different directions. And again, frequently at PhD level, it's about what skills you've acquired along the way, not just knowledge. Knowledge and skills, I think, is what really helps you at that point.
Nice, because I guess something like a master's is, I guess, amongst the public, amongst students, quite sought out after, but it might be understated how much a summer program doing like working in a research group and the experience you get from that could be as useful, if not more useful.
It absolutely can be, and you see a lot of students across the UK will go and do a master's degree, but then you've started a master's degree in October and you're applying for a PhD, and PhD applications open in November, December usually, and sometimes early January. So people are applying for a PhD and they've literally just started their masters. They haven't learned much just yet. So I think having real experience kind of in the bag already is really, really useful. I think that's one of the things I'm really, really quite proud of. Particularly in this college, we really do try and work hard to make sure our students get opportunities. There's funding available to help with that. And again, as a director of studies, we will sit down with people, try and work out what the best option would be for people to pick up particular experience.
Nice. That's really cool. I think, that's, I didn't know that before, that there's a lot of support from the director of studies to encourage students and where they could find research placements. At least speaking from a chemistry perspective, there's a big difference between what you do pen and paper and how you find the lab, and then there's no substitute for lab work, no matter how good you are with the theory.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can teach the theory. It can be very frustrating doing experiments sometimes and things don't work. And the theory is useful because you can sit down and work out why did this not work. And sometimes an experiment hasn't worked for the most mundane reason. We had something failing a couple of weeks ago, failed 3 or 4 times in a row. It turns out an enzyme, we were pulling out of the freezer had gone out of date, or had probably been left to thaw at some point, and it just wasn't working quite the way it should have been. And it was just somebody leaving the door of a freezer open that caused that experiment to go wrong. But we'd spent hours working out what possible reasons the experiment could have failed. So yeah, these are kind of useful practical skills. And I think sometimes just that extra year of maturity that you get while doing something like a master's or a Part 3 at Cambridge can be useful as well. You just have a bit more experience in dealing with issues and solving problems.
So another module that I noticed in the second year course, just wanted to hear a brief explanation on it, was there was an option to do neurobiology. I was wondering if you'd be able to explain what that was for us.
So neurobiology is quite an interesting option. It's definitely something that my students in the past have found interesting to take. Neurobiology, again, it's another one of these multi-scale subjects. It's quite a broad scale subject. You're looking at how neurons work, axons, electrical induction, synapses, neurotransmitters. You're looking at that scale. You're looking at how neurons form connections to each other, and how that can feed into things like sensory perception, so hearing, smell, taste, vision. And then it starts to bring all of that together and see how these things might come together in terms of motor function. Then you look about things like emotion, motive behaviors, and then you begin to put that together into, cognition and the brain and perception and emotion and how all those things are organized. So you're learning about the building blocks of how nerves work and how neurons work. And you're building that up towards cognition and how the brain works as a whole. So it's a nice course for people who think they might like to go and do neuroscience later on. Or if you think you might be interested in neuroscience and you take that course and maybe you learn a lot from it, but you decide to do something else later. So it's an option in second year to explore that side of biology.
Nice. Am I right in thinking it's quite a nice bridge between biology and neuroscience?
Yeah. And I think typically if students really enjoy that and want to get into neuroscience later on, they probably think about taking physiology, development, neuroscience, and the more neuroscience specific modules in their third year.
Nice. And I also want to talk about, because I noticed that in the first year there's a experimental psychology course, and then there's also a experimental psychology course in the second and third year. And am I right in thinking that someone can come into natural sciences and end up graduating with a experimental psychology degree?
Yeah, it's now it's possible, and with the new 1A course, it's possible to take psychology options all the way through the natural science degree, and yeah, that can lead to a psychology degree that's accredited with the I've forgotten the name of the council that accredits psychology degrees. Yep. So that that is a route on if you wanted to go and specialize into clinical psychology later on. That's definitely possible.
Nice. Yeah, when I was researching, doing this podcast, I was just amazed by the breadth of options, and I think I can imagine someone really interested in biology and behaviour, and the fact that there's an option for them to be an accredited psychologist is really cool.
And I think part of the drive to have now a first year psychology course is first year with those 4 subjects is a year where you can pick a subject a bit different to your other subjects. I think it's quite nice. It'll give more students who may not necessarily want to become a psychologist. It will give them a chance to learn about concepts in psychology in that new first year course.
Nice, yeah, that is cool. And I also noticed modules in evolutionary behaviour in the first and second year, at least I think the third year as well. And I was wondering if you could explain how are the evolutionary behaviour modules different to experimental psychology?
Yeah, so I think in particular the first year module, evolution and behaviour, I get the impression that it's mostly an evolution and evolution courses, really good grounding in how life evolves. But when you're studying evolution and species and populations, I think behaviour comes into that in quite a few different places. So I think in that evolution and behaviour course, there is certainly some modules on behaviour, kind of on a kind of a species and population level. I think more than specifically individual behaviour. So it's much more tailored towards looking at how life evolves and develops and how behaviour might affect that. Whereas experimental psychology is going to be much more about individual, more human behaviour.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And so more going on to the admission side of things. Students, let's say, students who are choosing the A levels and they're thinking about natural sciences. Are there specific advantageous A level combinations that make a student well prepared for NatSci, or are there any combinations that are quite necessary as entry requirements?
So I would say mathematics for A levels definitely essential in whichever side of natural sciences you're interested in pursuing. In terms of chemistry and biology, I think most of our students probably have maths, chemistry, and biology as three of their subjects. But you don't necessarily have to have chemistry and biology. I think it's probably more common to see. I've seen students coming through who don't necessarily have biology at A level, which might seem a bit crazy if this is biological natural sciences. But I think it's reasonable, because that A-level chemistry is just a really useful grounding. I mean, effectively, we're going to reteach all of biology in the first year and then get deeper and deeper in second and third year. So you don't necessarily have to have A-level biology, although it's definitely useful. But I think if you don't have chemistry, that can make it even a little bit harder in first year. Right? So I would have said mathematics for sure, chemistry, probably both, really important. Biology slightly less so, but again, we tend to see that most of the students will have maths, chemistry, and biology.
And this is for the biological natural sciences.
The biological natural sciences. On the physical natural sciences, I think you tend to see students taking physics and frequently having further maths as well. A lot of students taking biological natural sciences have got further maths too, but not all of them.
Yeah, I remember at school, because in our sixth form you were able to take 4 A levels. It seems like physics, chemistry, maths, and further maths was the strong option for the physical natural sciences. I imagine that's strong also for biological.
Yeah.
No.
So I would have said, with biology perhaps instead of physics. And I'd say for biological natural sciences, the further maths is useful, but not, absolutely essential.
So these were my levels. If you're doing chemistry, maths, and further maths, would that put you in a strong position for the biological natural sciences?
Chemistry, maths, further maths. Yeah, I think you would, given that biology of cells is quite a big course in first year, you would be busy, but you would have very good skills on your maths subjects. You'd likely take chemistry as well in first year. So I think it would just mean you'd spend a little bit more of your time on biology of cells and catching up, because that's a lot of content, but would certainly be a possible combination.
Nice. And I should specify, and this change, I think this could change year on year. So Cambridge is made up of 29 colleges, and each of the colleges may differ in what they prefer in terms of their A-level requirements. And you can see all of this information on the Cambridge University website under natural sciences, and then under entry requirements, you will see if any colleges have a preference in A-level requirements. And so it's definitely worth having a look at that if you're thinking about applying and trying to choose which college to apply to. And lastly, I wanted to talk about students when they're applying for university at a given year. They can only apply to one of either Cambridge or Oxford. And just wanted to hear about your opinion on how, at least for the sciences side, the courses are different and how they're delivered differently in Oxford and Cambridge.
Yes, so I think, the biological courses at Oxford, I guess there's biology, and then there's a biochemistry course as well.
Yeah.
And I think they're great courses. I think the key difference is you're kind of having to make that choice a little bit earlier than you might do were you to come and read natural sciences at Cambridge.
Yeah. So just to make it clear for the viewers, in Oxford's, if you want, there's individual undergraduate degrees in biology, chemistry, physics, biochemistry, and you have to choose them when you're applying, and it'd be very, very hard to switch once you've started. Whereas in the natural sciences course, as we talked about in depth, there's a lot of choosing and different pathways investigating as you're going through the course.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we've covered this a few times today. I think with great flexibility comes the fact that students need to navigate the course and the choices. I still firmly believe, having done natural sciences myself, that I felt like I was glad I could make that choice myself while I was on the course, given what I was learning. So for me, at least, that was an ideal way to go through things. But for other individuals, they might prefer to do it that way.
And lastly, how often is it, once you've seen someone graduate from your cohort and you're talking to them and you ask them, did you imagine you'll specialise in the way that you did? How often is it that students say that they they had no intention, that they ended up doing something they weren't really expecting to do so?
I would have said a lot of students coming through end up doing something similar to what they had originally thought they might be doing, but frequently a little bit different. Yeah. And then you have a minority of students who end up doing something completely different to what they thought they might be doing when they arrived. So in general, people are close to what they'd originally thought about, and they've maybe pivoted a little bit and changed direction in a few different areas. I think the other thing that's really quite useful about natural sciences, at least I found, is that it also taught me quite early on the subjects I really don't enjoy, and that made my life later on much easier. I'm not going to mention the subjects in natural sciences I did not enjoy, but I think that can be useful to know as well.
Yeah, because I guess the benefit of choosing is that you can not choose the ones that you don't like. And you can specify the ones that you do.
I would say it's first and second year where students really where those mindsets change a little bit, because you have an idea of what biochemistry might be like. You think maybe that's not for me, and then you come in and you take biology of cells. You think actually I quite enjoyed the biochemistry side of that, and then go into biochemistry in second year, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, maybe I'll think about specializing in biochemistry. And you'll get students who came in fixed on something until they've actually sat down and looked at what it entails in detail, and then decide, actually I'm going to move slightly laterally and take a different subject.
Nice.
So it's just nice to have that flexibility.
Yeah.
And again, your director of studies, given the number of possible choices on the course, I think it's really valuable to be able to sit down with a scientist who's a good understanding of all these courses and career paths and progressions and everything else, and help you make those choices. But they are your choices.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was really cool was that there's the chemistry option in the first year, and I can imagine a lot of people realizing how broad chemistry is. But in the second year, there's 2 chemistry options, and immediately you're given the choice of kind of going more to the organic side of things or the more physical inorganic side of things, and students have the choice of taking both.
And there's pharmacological options as well, and that's something I see people coming in frequently on the biology track thinking they're going to go and do, I don't know, biochemistry or developmental biology, and really enjoying chemistry much more than they thought, and ending up kind of coming through the kind of chemistry track, chemistry or pharmacology. That's quite common to see as well.
Nice. Amazing. Well, I think we've covered everything, unless there's anything else.
No?
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks, Anton, for...
My pleasure, thank you.
Yeah, it was a really good podcast. And thanks for the viewers for watching. We're hoping to do more podcasts with upcoming academics and upcoming students on subjects. So yeah, stay tuned. Nice.
That's the most random collection of books I've ever seen.